Alright, so today I'm going to be showing you the basics of a competitive Germany build. So what you want to start off with, right, is going through what focuses you want to do. So first of all, as Germany in my builds I usually do, is that I want to go for the tank bonus. But remember that when you go for the tank bonus, Russia also gets his tank bonus. So what you want to do is you want to get this early, but you also got to have in mind that Russia also gets this one early. So I like to do Rhineland first. Reason being is that I like getting the the war support. You get 10% war support, and from you getting that 10% war support, you are able to go for war economy after you pick globals. So what I usually do in multiplayer is that I start off by going free trade, then I go for globals, which is right here, and then you can go war economy straight off the bat in like mid 36, and which is very good. Um, if you're feeling cocky and allies are really bad, which is never going to happen in a competitive game, but sometimes you can actually go actual second focus and still get war economy, then you down and pick globals, you get the early political power you get from this. It doesn't say, but you get it. So you want to go for the tank treaty, so you can get the tank bonuses. Research-wise, you always want to be ahead on tanks as much as possible. So if you're going heavy tanks, day one, you're going to start researching the heavy tank. Same with fighters, you're going to be in an air-heavy game, you want to build a lot of air on the axis, you got to research fighter day one. In vanilla, you can make Romania rush the fighter too, and that is pretty good. But if you're playing a mod like Horst, you won't need to do that, because well, Romania doesn't have to do it, because you get a fighter 3 bonus also, and it doesn't take that long to rush the fighter here. Like 900 days might seem like a lot, but the earlier you get it, the earlier you have a chance of winning the air war, and you don't have that much to research in the air war. So basically, you want to go for a doctrine also as early as possible, because you want to have full doctrine for when Barbarossa starts, which is in a historical competitive game, it's gonna be mid 41. So what you want to start off with doing here is going the doctrine you want to go. So either one I'd say is viable, but I'd prefer mobile over superior. You get more soft attack on superior, more stats, but you get more recovery rate and org on this side, so you actually deal more damage usually in battles going mobile. And for example, if you and an enemy exhaust both your org and the enemy superior and your mobile, you're gonna be full org before they're full org. They're gonna be half org before you're when you're full org. So then you're gonna attack again, and then you've automatically won the battle. If you had been superior, you maybe wouldn't have won the battle because it's easier to defend, especially in vanilla. In Horse, it's a bit easier to attack forest tiles and such, but you want to have that in mind. So going for SPA is also very important. What I usually do is that I go, for example, heavy 2. When I've gotten the heavy 2, I forget about going SPA. SPA is so important. You don't want to actually have air as Germany over where you're fighting. I always tell my ACs this. If I'm fighting over Benelux and the and allies have green air, it won't really matter. By France, by Danzig, you know, they're not gonna have that like cast 3 or anything. They're gonna have cast 2 at the maximum, and they're not gonna have a lot of it. So USA is also gonna be allowed to lend these. So just keep green air over Germany, keep your refineries from getting bombed, and you'll be good. The SPA will shoot down all the casts, or not even give you that hard of a time in battles at all. So SPAs is very, very important to go for. Research-wise, going for guns is also very good, but it depends. Guns gives you a lot of stats in battles, but you also got to produce a lot of them to fill all of your divisions. Because if you see the template here, so if you see that this is 72 soft attack, if we could make a tank division here with heavy 3s and heavy 2s mixed inside of it, it would say the highest stats it could possibly be with the maximum upgrades you have done, right? It's gonna say, for example, 800 soft attack if you're superior firepower, for example, right, on soft attack. And but when you actually click on a division in the battlefield, if we train one and it drops, and then you click on it, you can actually check the actual stats of the division, and you can check that it's not going to be the same stat. So if you see you have a division here, and it says you have just got an anti-tank 3, and it says you have 80 piercing, and the enemy has 70 armor, but the 82 only gave you 60 piercing. It might be the case that you cannot pierce them still, because you need every AT in the division to have 83 for it to actually have 80 piercing. So I know this is like tutorial stuff, but like you gotta remember this. This all goes into the build, and it's goes in with tactics and stuff, and how you want to produce certain barbs. You want to have only heavy 3s in your templates, only medium 3s in your template for barb, right? It gives you an easier time of pushing, because you have the better stats, you have better piercing, and if Russia's heavy tanks, you might not pierce them if you have medium 2s mixed with medium 3s. Well, yeah, research-wise, Rush Fighter, heavy tank, or medium tank's also viable. Rush Doctrine, Engineer 3 is very important. Also, you get 10% river attack. It's useful basically everywhere. Rushing Tools is the best one you can go for, as Germany. Also in vanilla, you don't have that many building slots, so I'd actually, in vanilla and not in Horst, I'd kind of go Dispersed 3. But concentrated 3 is kind of viable in Horst. Concentrated 4, I mean. So yeah, I mean, construction is a myth, basically. I mean, the first 2 you should definitely go for early. Third one you can go for in like mid 38 or something. But I'd never say go for the 4th one unless you need the resources, because construction 4 doesn't help that much. You shouldn't waste research on it. If it stands between you getting construction 4 and you getting engineer 3, go for engineer 3. It's much more important. You want to rush this rubber tank as Germany. In Horst, these 2 are merged, so you get the fuel refining from refineries, and the fuel from refineries, and the fuel from per oil, all in one line. You want to rush the maximum one, because you're always going to be out of fuel as Germany if you have a lot of tanks. Artillery-wise, you don't want to do much as Germany. Sometimes I like to meme, we go in RE2 and go quality D-Day wall, anti-air. I also want to go for the upgrades if I'm getting bombed a lot. This gives you static anti-air factor, 10%. You get a lot more anti-air bombing reduction stuff here. Yeah, don't go for any Schwimmpanzer memes unless you're actually committing to it. And mechanized is good for heavies usually. Mediums could be good for, but if the enemy's heavy tanks, your mechanized mediums, most of the time you're gonna get right-clicked off the tile, so it doesn't really matter. Going over construction, you want to build civs until early 38. You don't want to go civ greedy. I'd say this goes for Horst and vanilla. I go Horst, I go mills early 38, like January, February 38. This gives you the best production in the game, and big civ count does not mean you win, even though I like going for high civ counts. That is a meme. That what matters is how much you produce through the game, and how much it matters, you know, if you cap with 800 civs, it doesn't matter. If you cap with 800 mils, it doesn't matter. If you produced enough to deter the allies in the common turn, then you have actually done what is better. You know, if you produced more with 600 mils because you built them earlier, then you've built, you know, instead of having 800 mils and not having produced as much, the 600 mils is better. Unless it's a long game, then you're gonna have problems with going to 600 mils. But you know, those are very big numbers. But those are just examples. So for spies, it's Germany. You don't really want to do much, in my opinion. In vanilla, you can't do much. Like, this costs civs, you have a good economy law. I'd say you don't even go for it until later on, but that is totally up to you. In Horst, though, it's free. You should definitely go for this agency stuff. You can steal technologies, only that in vanilla it's very expensive and not actually worth it. Production-wise, you want to line up what you need early game. And for example, if you're doing a medium motorized build like I usually do, you kind of want to go a lot of motorized in the start. You want to boost guns also in the start, something like this. Like, if you're going to motorized medium build, you won't have to build much motorized late game if you have a lot of motorized early game, right? Same with support equipment. You don't want to build much late game, you can put more on it now. If you want to build armored cars for the reconnaissance or something, even though they're worse than motorized reconnaissance in my opinion, then do that. Also, if you're also going to have support AA on D-Day wall, you want to have one on that or something. So that's usually how I have enough for D-Day wall. That's going to be enough for about 100 divisions by mid-41. 120 widths, that is. But, you know, it doesn't matter because it takes as much as it's a 40 width support company. Yeah, so you want to go refineries. In horse, you want to go refineries early 39 to mid 39. It depends on how your build is. Depends on how many mills you want to go for, what your production is. If you sieve greed it, it's not going to work out going later refineries because you're going to have to build mills. So that's why late sieve greeding is not very good. In vanilla though, you want to go like mix them in like October 38th, then usually you should have enough for about 100 mils on fighters by the war. That is with export instead of free trade. You can never be free trade during the war unless you have overbuilt refineries really. So I mean, yeah, you wanna get trade backs. You wanna trade with your allies, and you wanna get trade backs in horse. You don't really need trade backs because the trading system has changed. I'm gonna be leaving a link to horse if you don't know what it is in the description. But basically, templates. You go check the template designer guide I have. You just go 8 motorized, 12 tanks. It's the support companies that benefits you. Usually I do these two. Only logistics is also very useful if you're fighting in a very low supply zone. If you're also gonna be losing a lot of tanks, I'd say maintenance companies is good. Like if you go heavy tanks, you cannot go a heavy tank build without maintenance companies. Those are so good. You save so many tanks. The IC cost of the production you save is insane when you go for logistics. So no, maintenance. But yeah, focus wise, you also want to go for the early industry bonuses here, but you want to use them on, you don't want to go too early. That's why you usually pick 3 focuses ahead, because then you can have researched this one usually if you juggle. And when you've juggled this one, you can rush tools 4, you can rush in horse. It's changed again, so you only have to research 3 and 4 bonuses. With the industry bonus, it only goes for 3, 4, and 5 bonuses. But for example, if you want to rush construction 4, which I don't recommend, then you want to go for construction 1, construction 2, then you get the bonus while you're researching construction 2, then you have the bonus for construction 3 and 4. What you also want to go for is the, yeah, as I said, the early construction speed here. You get the Civ guy after this one. You can buy him, very important. You know, to go and get the civs here. You want to get the research slot. You want to get Reichsautobahn for the infrastructure. The infrastructure is very important. You build so fast if you got on the infrastructure. After that, you want to go for Anschluss. You want to get the civs and the mills in Austria. That is completely for free. What you want to do is keep the world tension under 10%. So UK cannot get general rearmament to go down for the fighter bonus, which is located right here. Yeah. So they need 10% world tension for this, as you can see. Then they go air armed in, then they can get 2 fighter models bonuses, which is really bad for you, because then they're gonna get fighter 2 and fighter 3 early. So you want to go for Anschluss not as late as possible, but you want to do it as it times with Japanese war with the China. It's usually you have to go to war before 38, as in the rule sets. So what you want to go for is that you time it with that, so basically the allies don't get much of a research ahead of time on the fighters. Then you're going to go for demand, and this is around the time after you got in demand. You definitely want to start building mills, because then your civ guy disappears. You should pick the mill guy by then. You usually have enough PP to do that. You want to make, if you're pulling vanilla, you want to make Hungary bypass this one. And how you can do that is that when you've researched this one, you want to have Hungary have done the focus. That is over here. It is demand southern Slovakia. The Czechs will always accept. You just need 120,000 manpower on the field, and that is that means that Hungary has to go up from it's called disarm nation to voluntary only and get the manpower out. You don't need any, like you can make 2-width divisions, and like 100 2-width divisions is Hungary, then convert them to a 20-width division, put them on the border, and then bypass, and then it's like, yeah, you just get it. So then Germany gets this bypass, 70 days of focus they don't have to do. Then Germany goes for Fate of Czechoslovakia, they get the rest of the Czechs. And then they're going to be able to go for reassert Eastern claims. Is also good, because you get the reliance early now. Because the thing with these are that you want to have reliance in those countries as early as possible, because reliance builds up. It's not something you get for free. And you don't want to get for go for German war economy in this. In Horst it's different, but in vanilla you never want to do German war economy. You want to go down from here, do Großraumwirtschaft, or however you pronounce it. Then you want to have aligned these two. You can just make them join your faction and these two bypasses. Then you do integrate war economies, they become your puppets, you can trade from them very cheaply. In vanilla this is huge, in Horst not as huge, but it's good, you still want to do it in Horst, because, well, it's good. You can give them stuff also before the war. Without being a war, you can send your puppets to Landises, which is really good. Anti-Comintern Pact, then by the war, you know, you want to do Anti-Comintern Pact really whenever after you've done Danzig. This one's good for rushing Doctrine also, and if you're going for the medium, no, I don't really know why this is useful. I think it's different in Horse that you get bonuses here instead. You only need Treaty with USSR in Horse to get medium 3, for example, and heavy 3. I don't know how it is in vanilla, but you get the Doctrine bonuses off of this, which is really good. None of this exists in Horst, and Italy, and usually in competitive vanilla multiplayer, goes for Yugoslavia and Greece himself, and he trades you. He gets the factories from it. He builds planes for you in vanilla usually. In Horst, Italy only builds infantry usually, but I'll get to Italy tutorial in Horst too. But you as Germany are the leader of the Axis. You gotta decide the tactics and the team play, right? You are the one who decides it. If you want to go for a sea line game, you gotta make sure, like for example, Romania goes Marines or Mountaineers, whatever fits, to go for an invasion of Gibraltar and take Gibraltar, because usually in rule sets in vanilla it is that you gotta take Gibraltar to be able to go for a sea line. That is the most common rule. Suez and Gibraltar. Suez is more easy. In vanilla it's kind of hard though. If you have a good allies, you're probably never going to take it. In Horse it's easier as of right now. Africa is going to be changed though, that is what I know. But Suez is never really a problem to take. Allies usually roach out the mountains here, and if it's good allies you'll never take them. And then they'll eventually push back Africa. But what we're going to do in that meantime, right, because they're going to have stacked so much stuff here, is that when you take Gibraltar, you have prepared tanks, you have prepared Marines up here, then you go for an instant sea line. What you want to do as Germany before that is, for example, to build destroyers for naval supremacy, because they're going to have somewhat of a navy out here. Probably not their main navy, but they're going to have somewhat of a navy out here for naval supremacy. So you want to go for an instant sea line, land, get your tanks in, and you basically kill the UK 10 out of 10 times. But it's kind of boring to go for a sea line in my opinion. I'd say you don't do it. Go for war with Russia. If you build this good, you'll probably beat Russia. And yeah, I mean, it is completely up to you what your build is. For France, you want to have as many tanks as possible. You want to rush down Poland, in my opinion. You can grind Poland, but I'd say you shouldn't. Then you rush down the Benelux. You kill France as fast as possible. Because good Frances get really strong over time. I've seen so many get strong over time, kill a lot of good Germanys. They shouldn't have been killed, but the Germanys were too lazy. They were not thinking about going through Benelux already. They were like, oh, chill out, man, I'm doing this. Like, I'm eating, dude, no, but you know. Like, you really need to do that if you don't want to die, right? So, yeah, I mean, as I said, build is completely up to you. You want to make a strong build for your team mostly. Germany is usually the carry of the team, but it's completely up to you. This is basically what I had to say. If you want to watch some Germany content, you can hop in some stream sometime, but it's really not much to it. You decide, and then in the end it comes down to micro. How well you micro your tanks, what traits you have grinded in Spain, even though I sort of forgot to talk about it now, but Spain is very important as Germany. You gotta grind in Spain, because you want to get Ranger, Urban Assaulter, makeshift bridges, and both your Field Marshal and your General, because then you can cross the big rivers in Russia, which you otherwise will not be able to cross. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot into it, going into it, right? But, guys, this is all I had to say for this time. I'm going to be coming up with a Russia tutorial, and I'll see you then.